Views expressed by Hoot and Holler storytellers do not reflect those of Blue Ridge PBS and may contain themes and language not suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Blue Ridge PBS and ECHO present Hoot and Holler, a live storytelling event recorded at the Historic Grandin Theatre in Roanoke, Virginia.
Okay, this can come off. Okay, so I'm going to start out with a question. What does a runaway bride and a runaway pig have in common? Well, I grew up in a home where we raised orphaned raccoons on a bottle in the house. We rescued a little baby lamb who had to wear Pampers while sitting on my mom's lap in her recliner, and rescued a pig that had fallen out of a truck headed to market. This became my normal. I remember the time my dad scored a wild pony in trade for painting an old barn. We couldn't afford a saddle, but that didn't keep me from riding that pony all over the streets of LaGrange, Indiana, where he either threw me off, took me off against the side of a fence, or tried to behead me under a low-hanging limb. But I loved him. And as I ventured into the adult life, there was never a time I was without an animal companion. Years later, my husband and I purchased almost 200 acres of land in Franklin County and ended up with a herd of cattle, a 40-year-old pony who guarded the cattle. We took on 8 goats, a pig, and I had show horses. We had cats and dogs, and of course, 26 llamas. This farm was years ago, and I want to fast forward to today. We now have a small farm of about 7 acres in the Mount Pleasant area, and it's just minutes from downtown Roanoke, where we also have rescue animals now. It includes 3 miniature donkeys, 11 goats, 6 cats, a mean rooster that likes to flog us any chance he gets, and 2 beautiful pigs. And one of the pigs, who came from Angels of Assisi, is named Perry. And Perry was a lonely pig at first until one day I got wind of a pig that was being evicted from the city of Roanoke. My 2 great friends had alerted me of this pig in need that had been flown in from the state of Texas as a wee little pig and was now living on Brandon Avenue. Her name was Darla, and Darla needed rescued. So when my friends reached out to me for help, I said yes. And I learned that Darla was quite famous. Over the years, she lived in the city and had grown quite a fan club of admirers. But Darla had gained some weight due to a Fruit Loop addiction. So it was going to be a group effort to get this hefty pig lifted into a vehicle for transport. And it just so happened the enlisted help had come straight from their AA meeting on a Saturday morning, Alcoholics Anonymous, to help me get Darla drunk on 2 tall Ice House beers. We positioned Darla on a tarp where she slurped down the 2 beers like a lush, foam down the sides of her jaws. And as she passed out, the AA friends grunted and moaned as they lifted the drunk pig into the Jeep, where she snoozed all the way to her new home in the country. So upon arriving at our farm, Darla and Perry were introduced to each other over a fence line. And it was love at first sight, and when Perry saw Darla, his tail went straight up. And Darla was smitten with the dark and handsome fellow of which she had probably never seen the likes, and for lack of better words, a hunka-chunka hog. After a couple of days of getting to know each other through the fence, I let them meet in person. They immediately took a shine to each other and moved into what is now called the Sugar Shack, an old abandoned horse stall that was Perry's bachelor pad. Darla and Perry spent many days grazing and roaming the 7 acres of land, wallowing in mud holes, and basking in the sun on the manure pile together. And it truly was a romance fit for the movies. It then occurred to us that they really shouldn't be living in this sinful way on our farm because you know how people talk. So we did what any self-respecting farmer would do. We planned a pig wedding. Okay, this was an open invitation. I put it on Facebook. There were plans for food to be catered, tents and chairs to be ordered from Aztec. We had bubble machines and face painting lined up, and with s'mores. We had chalk art and pig noses to be worn, and we hired a live musician. And a photo booth by my very good friend, Sonny Privenance. And Fruit Loop bags were made in lieu of rice bags. Darla requested a wedding registry from Tractor Supply. Where her favorite bedding of fine shavings and special pig food for less active pigs could be purchased. The rehearsals consisted of attempting to put the top hat on Perry and a wedding veil on Darla. This was no easy feat, as every time, they protested and squealed every time they saw that hat and veil come out. They just squealed and screamed bloody murder. The day of the wedding. Some guests came dressed in pig outfits and wore pig noses, and it was a community of people from all walks of life, and there was such an air of lightheartedness that was really felt by everybody. And our hired musician, Tim Martin, played Green Acres, and a chef from Frankie Rowland prepared a 5-star meal to be catered to over 100 people. No bacon and no pork was served. My husband and I laughed today that we put more money into this wedding than we did our own. So my husband grew up Catholic. Is that up there? Yeah. He decided he wanted to officiate the wedding dressed as the Pope. So we were able to find appropriate attire for a Pope costume on Amazon. So when he stepped out of the dressing room, which was a stall, the crowd yelled, "A Catholic wedding!" The wedding itself was predicted chaos. With getting the honorary pigs dressed, who when attempting to do a wedding march, ended up peeing in one corner together and running circles. with our little flower goat, Daisy May, dressed in her pink dress, planting her feet and not budging an inch. She wouldn't have anything to do with it. So at one point I looked out and I saw legs and hands and legs and hands, and there was these kids doing cartwheels down the hillside in the midst of all the goats, while donkeys were braying and Clucker, our rooster, was crowing at the top of his lungs. And then it came time for the vows from Pope Steve. That went something like this. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to join this little piggy and this little piggy in piggy bliss. Darla, do you take this hunka-chunka hog to be your husband? To live together in the sugar shack. To love him, to clean goat doo-doo from his hooves, to comfort and keep him warm with your generous jelly belly. And to keep him in health by ferreting only the juiciest grubs for him. For as long as you both shall live. She grunted, I do. Perry, do you take this gorgeous, curvy piggy to be your wife? To live together in the sugar shack, to love her, to nuzzle her, to pick ticks off her back, and keep her in health by feeding her huge cobs of corn daily for as long as you both shall live. And as if reality had kicked in for Perry, he started running circles. He bolted, and he broke through the gate and ran off to the far ends of the property. True story. Meanwhile, Pope Steve is yelling, Perry has cold feet. Perry, come back. So the happy ending of this story is that he did return that evening. Amends were made, and I found the two lovebirds nestled together in their sugar shack, and all was forgiven. And that night, after the guests were gone and the property put back into order, my friends along with Steve and I sat around into the wee hours of the evening, reminiscing the day's unpredictable or predictable chaos as we sipped on Darla's favorite beverage, Ice House beers. So as you can tell, I love my animals and have a lot of fun with them, and Darla, in particular, is such a colorful and fun personality that I wrote a book several years ago, and it's called Roanoke Loves Me. Not me, her. Loves Darla. And in this book, I wrote about this love story where Darla and Perry got married. And in reality, it is with great pleasure I announced that last month the couple celebrated their first wedding anniversary. They still enjoy wallowing in the mud holes and basking in the sun, on the manure pile, and evening strolls through their field of dreams. And as much fun as it was putting this whole very surreal event together, the greatest memories are of joyous laughter and innocent fun from all who attended, and I will always hold that special day in my heart forever.